Chapter 11 Viśvarūpa-darśana Yoga, the Yoga of the Universal Form. Verse 1. Arjuna said, "By your mercy, you have explained the greatest secret about your supreme nature. Thus my bewilderment is gone." Verse 2. O lotus-eyed Krsna, I have heard your detailed description of the creation and destruction of all living beings, as well as your eternal glories. Verse 3. O Supreme Controller, what you have described about yourself is true. O Supreme Person, I now desire to see your form of great splendor. Verse 4. O Master of all yogis, if you think that it is possible, then kindly show that immortal form to me. Anuvrtti. By the end of chapter 10, Arjuna is completely convinced that Śrī Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Person, and that all creation manifests from him and remains in him after annihilation. But in order that future generations may not mistake Krsna for an ordinary man or simply a philosopher, Arjuna requests Krsna to reveal his universal form, Viśvarūpa, the form of Krsna wherein everything in the universe is contained. This form cannot be seen by any independent endeavor, but completely depends on the mercy of Krsna for Arjuna to behold. Arjuna also knows that in the future, unscrupulous men will claim to be God and mislead ignorant people. Therefore, Arjuna wants Krsna to show his universal form as the benchmark, so that anyone claiming to be God should be able to show the universal form to confirm their position. Indeed, Arjuna's foresight was accurate. Since the time of Krsna, and especially in modern times, many so-called God-men have stepped forward in society and claimed to be Krsna, or God incarnate. Unfortunately, the masses of people are so ignorant that they accept such impostors. The greatest misfortune befalls a person when he or she claims to be God, or when a person accepts another human as God. This is without a doubt the darkest ignorance. The Ishopanishad warns of this as follows. Andam tama pravishyanti ye vidyam upasate, tato bhuya ivate tamoya uvidyayam rataha. Translation. Those who engage in the worship of false things enter into the darkest region of ignorance, but those who have knowledge, yet do not correct others, enter into even darker regions. Śrī Kṛṣṇa is addressed by Arjuna as the Supreme Person, Parameshvara, and the master of all yogic powers, Yogeshvara, because Arjuna knows that Krsna will be able to show him the universal form, thus distinguishing Krsna once and for all as the Supreme Being. Verse 5. Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa replied, "Partha, behold my unlimited divine forms of various hues and shapes." Verse 6. O descendant of Bharat, behold the Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, the Ashvini Kumaras, and the Marutas. Behold the multifarious amazing forms never before seen. Verse 7. O conqueror of sleep, behold in this one place the entire cosmos, including all moving and non-moving beings, all within this form of mine, along with whatever else you desire to see. Verse 8. Yet you are unable to perceive this with your present eyes, therefore I will give you divine vision. Now behold my mystic splendor. Anuvrtti. If one gazes out into the universe with his eyes, or even with a modern telescope, one should not expect to see the universal form as was shown to Arjuna. The universal form is not possible to perceive with the eyes of this material body. For such a vision as Arjuna was to receive, one needs divine eyes. In other words, Arjuna's vision of the universal form was subjective and could only be revealed by Krsna. Within that vision, Arjuna was able to see in one place all that is, all that was, all that will ever be, everything moving and non-moving in an instant. As we will see in this chapter, after seeing the universal form of Krsna, which Arjuna describes as wonderful, astonishing, fiery, terrible, and devastating, he becomes fearful and asks Krsna to once again show him his charming and beautiful form as the Supreme Person. Verse 9. Sanjaya said, O Maharaj Dhritarashtra, having thus spoken to Partha, the great master of all mysticism, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, revealed the majesty of his universal form. Verses 10 and 11. Śrī Kṛṣṇa revealed his form of infinite mouths and eyes, adorned with many divine ornaments, and raising many celestial weapons. He was decorated with divine garlands and garments, and anointed with heavenly fragrances. He was most wonderful, splendorous, unlimited, and all-pervading. Verse 12. If an infinite number of suns were to appear in the sky simultaneously, such effulgence might possibly resemble the splendor of that Supreme Person. Verse 13. At that moment, Arjuna the son of Pandu saw the entire cosmos within the form of the master of the demigods. Verse 14. Thus being overwhelmed with astonishment, Arjuna's hair stood on end, and placing his hands together in prayer, he offered his obeisance to Śrī Kṛṣṇa and spoke. Verse 15. Arjuna said, O Master, I see within your body all the demigods and all other forms of life. I see the sages, the celestial serpents, as well as Brahma and Shiva seated on a lotus. Verse 16. O Master of the universe, I see your unlimited form, with innumerable arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes. I see that there is no beginning, middle, or end to this universal form of yours. Verse 17. I see you in all directions, with crown, club, and disc weapon, a mass of radiance illuminating all around you like the brilliance of the sun, making you difficult to behold. Verse 18. You are the eternal absolute truth known by the Vedas. You are the ultimate shelter of the universe. You are the imperishable protector of Dharma. I understand you to be the eternal Supreme Person. Verse 19. I see that you are without beginning, middle, or end. You have unlimited power and innumerable arms. Your eyes are the sun and the moon. This entire universe is scorched by the rays emanating from your mouth like blazing fire. Anuvrtti. The universal form of Śrī Kṛṣṇa is one that invokes great awe, reverence, and laudations from the beholder. But factually speaking, a devotee of Krishna is not charmed by such a display. Awe and reverence borders on fear, and as we shall see, Arjuna does indeed become fearful as he continues to behold Krishna's universal form. Fear does not encourage a loving relationship with the Supreme. Therefore, the universal form of Krishna is not very important for students of Bhakti Yoga, only inasmuch as it proves to demonstrate that unless one can show the universal form, one should not be accepted as God. Factually, there are different avatars of Krishna that appear in the universe at scheduled times, and these have been mentioned by Jayadev Goswami as follows. Vedhan udharate jaganti vahate bhugolam udbibrate, daityam dharayate bhalim chalayate, kshatrakshayam kurvate, paulastyam jayate halam kalayate, karunyam athanvate, mlechan murchayate dashakriti krite, Krishnaya tubhyam namah. Translation. O Krishna, I offer my respects unto you, who appear in the forms of these 10 avatars. As Matsya, you rescued the Vedas, and as Kurma, you carry the Mandara mountain on your back. As Varaha, you lift up the earth planet with your tusks, and as Narasimha, you tear open the chest of the Daitya, Hiranyakashipu. In the form of Vamana, you delude the Daitya king Bali by requesting only 3 steps of land from him, and then you take the whole universe from him by expanding your strides. As Parashurama, you slay all the wicked warriors, and as Ramachandra, you fight the Rakshasa king Ravana. As Balaram, you carry a plow, with which you subdue the wicked, and you draw the river Yamuna towards you. As Buddha, you show compassion towards all living beings that are suffering in this world, and at the end of Kali Yuga, you appear as Kalki, in order to bewilder the Mlechas. From the Gita Govinda. In reading the Bhagavad-gītā, one sees repetition in many places. This, however, is not a flaw, but an embellishment due to ecstasy. The Acharya, Baladev Vidyabhushan, confirms this. Prasadhe vishmaye harshe dvitrir yuktam nadushyati. As does the famous commentator on Bhagavad-gītā, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who writes in his purport to verse 19 as follows. There is no limit to the extent of the 6 opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, and in many other places, there is repetition, but according to the scriptures, repetition of the glories of Krishna is not a literary weakness. It is said that at a time of bewilderment or wonder or of great ecstasy, statements are repeated over and over. That is not a flaw. Verse 20. O Great One, you completely pervade all directions, including the space between the higher planets and the earth. Seeing this wonderful and terrifying form of yours, the three worlds tremble with fear. Verse 21. The demigods enter into you and fearfully offer prayers to you with folded hands. The assembly of great sages and perfected beings offer choice prayers unto you, exclaiming, May there be auspiciousness. Verse 22. The Rudras, Adityas, Vasus, Sadhyas, Vishvadevas, Ashvini Kumaras, Marutas, the forefathers, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Asuras, and Siddhas, behold you and are struck with awe. Verse 23. Seeing this immense form of yours with its unlimited mouths, eyes, arms, legs, feet, and bellies, dreadful with its many teeth, all of mankind and myself are terrified. Verse 24. O Vishnu, upon seeing your brilliant form of many colors touching the sky, with its huge open mouths and massive blazing eyes, I shudder within and can no longer maintain my mental equilibrium, nor remain peaceful. Verse 25. Seeing your many mouths with their terrifying teeth, fiery like the flames of the universal annihilation, I have lost all sense of direction and composure. Be kind upon me, O Master of the demigods, O supreme shelter of the universe. Verses 26 and 27. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, their royal allies, as well as Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and also the best fighters in our army, are all hurtling into your terrible mouths with their frightening teeth. Some I see with their heads caught and pulverized between your teeth. Verse 28. Just as rivers flow towards the ocean and finally enter it, similarly, all these famous heroes enter into your fiery mouths. Verse 29. Just as moths rush to their deaths by entering fire, all the worlds rush into your mouths to their destruction. Verse 30. You repeatedly lick your lips as you devour all around you with your fiery mouths. O Vishnu, pervading the entire universe with your brilliant rays, you incinerate it. Verse 31. With such a terrifying form, please tell me who you are. O best of all divinities, be merciful unto me. O origin of all, I desire to know you, for I cannot fully understand your activities. Anuvrtti. Seeing the universal form, Arjuna has now become anxious and is on the verge of forgetting who Śrī Kṛṣṇa actually is. Therefore, we can understand from Arjuna's situation that the great power, opulence, majesty, devastation, and utter horror seen by him does not serve to draw us closer to the absolute truth. Nature worship is not included in bhakti yoga. The truth is present in nature, but one must know what that truth is beforehand. One cannot achieve self-realization simply by contemplation on or simple appreciation of nature alone. Meditation on the absolute truth is not impersonal or abstract as previously mentioned. The personal form of Krishna, as a charming youth with a threefold bending form as Shyamasundar, adorned with forest flowers, dressed in bright yellow garments, while playing his flute under a tree on the banks of the river Yamuna, is the most cherished object of meditation for all great sages and yogis. This is described in the following verses. Satpundarika nayanam meghabham vaidyutambaram dvibhujam jnanamudradhyam vanamalinam ishwaram. Translation. I meditate on Śrī Kṛṣṇa, whose beautiful eyes are like lotuses, whose hue is that of a new rain cloud, whose clothes are as bright as lightning, who possesses 2 arms, who is adorned by a beautiful forest garland, and whose hand shows the Jnana-mudra, indicating divine knowledge. From the Gopal Tapani Upanishad. Pitambaram ganashamam dvibhujam vanamalinam barhi barha kritapidam shashikoti nibananam gurnayamana nayanam karnikara vatamsinam abitas chandanenata madhye kumkum binduna, rachitam tilakam bhale vibratam mandalakritim, tarunaditya shankasham kundalabhyam virajitam, karmambu kanika rajad darpanaba kapolakam, priyamukha nyastapangam lilaya yonata bhruvam, agra bhaganyasta mukta spuraducha sunasikam, dashana jyotishnaya rajat pakva bhimba faladharam, keyurangada sadratna mudrikabhir lasatkaram, vibratam muralim vame panopadma tatethare, kanchidhama spuran madhyam nupurabhyam lasatpadam, rati keli rasavesha chapalam chapalekshanam, hasanta priyaya sardham hasayantam chatammuhu, itam kalpatharor mule ratnasimhasanopari, vrindaranye smarit krishnam samstitam priyaya saha. Translation. I meditate on two-armed Krishna, who is dark like a monsoon rain cloud, dressed in yellow garments, garlanded with forest flowers, crowned with a peacock feather, and decorated with lotuses. His face is as splendid as millions of moons, and his eyes move restlessly. His forehead is marked with tilak made of sandalwood paste and musk. He is adorned with earrings that resemble two rising suns, and his perspiration-anointed cheeks are like two glistening mirrors. His eyes with raised eyebrows above them playfully glance at his beloved's face. The tip of his graceful raised nose is decorated with a glistening pearl. His lips are red like the bimba fruit and are splendid in the moonlight of his teeth. His hands are splendid with bracelets, armlets, and jeweled rings. He holds a flute in his left lotus hand. His waist is splendid with a graceful belt, and his feet are splendid with beautiful anklets. His eyes are restless with the nectar of his divine activities, and he jokes with his friends, making them laugh again and again. He sits on a jeweled throne under a desire tree in the forest of Vrindavan with his beloved. In this way, one should meditate on Śrī Kṛṣṇa. From the Sanat Kumar Samhita. Verse 32. Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa said, "Time I am, the mighty destroyer of worlds, and I come to vanquish all living beings. Even without your participation, all the warriors on the opposite side of the battlefield will be killed." Verse 33. Therefore arise and achieve glory. Conquer your foes and enjoy a prosperous empire. O best amongst archers, all your enemies have already been killed by me. You are but an instrument. Verse 34. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other heroic soldiers have already been killed by me. Fear not, fight. You will certainly conquer your enemy in this battle. Anuvrtti. The fate of the world is ultimately sealed, but the opportunity for the conditioned living beings to attain enlightenment and transcend the world of birth and death is open to all. Śrī Kṛṣṇa says, Kalosmi lokakshayakrit. Time I am, the mighty destroyer of worlds. This is the fate of the world. Time is the great enemy, and it eventually devours all things. This insurmountable time is the energy of Krishna. In the Mahabharata Vanaparva, it is said, Masartu dharvi parigatanena suryagnina ratri divendanena asmin maha mohamaye katahe bhutani kala pachati tivarta. Translation. The 12 months and 6 seasons are like cooking spoons. The sun is the fire for cooking. Day and night are the fuel consumed by the sun. Ignorance is the cooking pot, and the living beings are within that pot, being cooked by time. That is the way of this world. In 1945, when the first atomic bomb was detonated at test facilities in New Mexico, atomic physicist Robert Oppenheimer remembered verse 32 of this chapter as a just assessment of the moment. Years later, when asked about his feelings concerning the bomb, he made the following statement. We knew the world would not be the same. A few people laughed, a few people cried, most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad-gītā. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince, Arjuna, that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, Now I am death, the destroyer of worlds. Indeed, from then till now, the world seems to hang by a thread, and our imminent destruction, seemingly at our own hands, could come at any moment. This, it appears, is the ultimate fate of the world, certain annihilation. Verse 35. Sanjaya said, upon hearing Keshava's words, the trembling Arjuna offered his obeisance, and folding his hands in prayer, spoke to Śrī Kṛṣṇa in a faltering voice. Verse 36. Arjuna said, O master of the senses, it is only fitting that the whole universe should blissfully praise you and become attracted to you. Struck with terror, the wicked flee in all directions, and all perfected beings offer their respects unto you. Verse 37. And, O Great One, why should they not bow down before you? You are even more exalted than Brahma, the creator of this universe. O Unlimited One, O Master of the demigods, O Supreme Shelter of the universe, you are eternal, beyond that which is existent and non-existent. Verse 38. You are the original Supreme Divinity, the Supreme Primeval Person, and the sole shelter of the whole universe. You are the knower and that which is knowable. You are the supreme refuge, and your infinite forms pervade the entire cosmos. Verse 39. You are the presiding deity of the air, Vayu. You are the presiding deity of death, Yama. You are the presiding deity of fire, Agni. You are the presiding deity of water, Varuna. You are the creator and the grandfather of all living beings. I offer you my obeisance thousands of times, again and again. Verse 40. My obeisance unto you from the front and from behind, my obeisance unto you from all directions. O Almighty One of infinite strength, you pervade all things, therefore you are all things. Verses 41 and 42. I was unaware of your greatness, and due to familiarity, I have ignorantly addressed you as a friend. For whatever I have said casually, such as O Krishna, O Yadava, O friend, and for whatever disrespect I have shown to you, even in jest, or while playing, relaxing, sitting together, or eating, alone or in the presence of others, O infallible one, O inconceivable one, I beg your forgiveness. Verse 43. You are the Father of all moving and non-moving beings in the universe. You are the most venerable and most glorious teacher. You have no equal within all the three worlds. How can there be anyone greater than you, O Master of incomparable power? Verse 44. Therefore, O Master, I prostrate myself in front of you and beg you to be merciful unto me. O Krishna, kindly forgive me, as a father, friend, or lover would forgive a son, a friend, or a beloved. Verse 45. I am happy to have seen this universal form of yours, which has never been seen before, yet my mind is overcome by fear. Therefore, O Master of the demigods, kindly show me that form of Narayan, the refuge of the universe. Verse 46. I wish to see that form of yours wearing a crown and carrying the club and disc weapon in your hands. O one with 1,000 arms, O universal form, now kindly reveal to me your four-armed form. Anuvrtti. Arjuna has been showering praises upon Śrī Kṛṣṇa after seeing his universal form of great wonder. But then he regrets that in many instances he may have offended Krishna by addressing him as O Krishna, O friend, or by playing or relaxing with Krishna. Thus Arjuna requests Krishna's forgiveness for any transgressions that he might have made, and then earnestly requests Krishna to show him his four-armed form as Narayan. Arjuna has an eternal relationship with Krishna in friendship, Sakyaras, and as such, he is only momentarily forgetful of that. Similarly, all living beings have an eternal relationship with Krishna, either as a friend, servant, parent, or lover, and this relationship can be thus discovered through the process of bhakti yoga. That the living being's relationship with Krishna is eternal is confirmed as follows. Sanityo nitya sambandha prakritischa paraivasa. Translation. The living being is eternal and has an eternal relationship with Krishna from beginningless and endless time. From the Brahma Samhita. Verse 47. Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa replied, Arjuna, being pleased with you, I have shown you through my divine potency this radiant, infinite, primeval, universal form. This form has never been seen by anyone before. Verse 48. O best of the Kuru dynasty, no one in this world of mortals can see this form that I have revealed to you, neither by study of the Vedas, nor the performance of Vedic sacrifices, nor by giving charity, nor by rituals, nor by rigorous austerities. Verse 49. Do not be fearful by seeing this terrifying form of mine. Do not be bewildered. With a tranquil mind, behold once more the form you desire to see. Verse 50. Sanjaya said, Speaking thus, Vasudeva, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, showed his four-armed form, and then resumed his beautiful two-armed form, calming the frightened Arjuna. Verse 51. Arjuna said, Looking at your sweet human-like form, O Janardhan, my mind is peaceful once more, and I have regained my composure. Verse 52. Bhagavan Śrī Kṛṣṇa said, This form of mine that you now see before you is most difficult to see. Even the demigods constantly desire to attain but a glimpse of it. Verse 53. Not through the Vedas, not through penances, not through philanthropic works, nor through sacrificial rituals is it possible to see me as you have seen me. Verse 54. O Arjuna, I can only be fully known through bhakti yoga. By such devotion one can truly see me and attain me, O conqueror of the enemy. Verse 55. My devotee who serves me, accepts me as the supreme, rejects all material attachments, and who is free from malice for all living beings can attain me, O son of Pandu. Anuvrtti. Because Arjuna has an eternal relationship with Śrī Kṛṣṇa, and not with Narayan in Vaikuntha, Krishna could see that he was not yet peaceful, even after seeing his form as Narayan, and thus Krishna resumed his original two-armed form as Shyamasundar. Those who have a direct relationship with Krishna are most fortunate and are never satisfied by seeing any other avatar of Krishna besides that of his original form. A similar situation is narrated in the book Brihad Bhagavatamrita, wherein Gopakumar found himself in Vaikuntha in the presence of Narayan, but did not feel comfortable or at home. Because Gopakumar has an eternal relationship with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, even being in the presence of the majestic Narayan in Vaikuntha could not pacify him. Thus he continued his journey until at last he reached the supreme abode and the sweet embrace of Krishna. Such is the great fortune of Krishna's devotee, who is always guided by him and ultimately attains his sweet embrace. Om Tat Sat. Thus ends Chapter 11, entitled Viśvarūpa-darśana Yoga, from the conversation between Śrī Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, in the Upanishad known as Srimad Bhagavad-gītā, the Yoga Shastra of divine knowledge, from the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, the literature revealed by Vyas in 100,000 verses.